The signal in the war zone. The war zone stretched across the black sea of space like a broken mirror. Explosions flared, ships burned, and fragments of steel drifted without direction. Two alien empires had been fighting for weeks, neither side giving mercy. The Council of Worlds watched from their hidden station far above the chaos. To them, this battle was just another political game, another test of strength between rivals. But then, something happened that froze the room. At first, it was just a pulse, faint, like a single heartbeat on the sensors. The Warzone scanners caught it, logged it, and almost ignored it. But then the pulse grew stronger. One by one, alarms lit up. A red warning spread across every display. The system AI spoke in a voice that was calm but heavy, like the sound of a judge announcing a death sentence. Warning. A human war vessel has entered the war zone. The council chamber fell silent. For a moment, no one spoke. Then soft laughter began. A tall, thin alien from the Varick species leaned back in his seat and let out a mocking hiss. Impossible, he said. Humans are only myths, old stories, primitive creatures who burned their own world centuries ago. Others joined in, shaking their heads. To them, the idea of a human ship appearing in the middle of a galactic war was nothing more than a joke, but not everyone was laughing. Admiral Koresh of the Drevians narrowed his eyes. His people were ancient record keepers. He remembered the files his ancestors whispered about, locked away in restricted archives. The Terrans, they were called. Humans. A species that fought not with numbers, but with fire that burned entire empires. He had heard that when humanity last stood in battle, they sent only a few ships. Yet those ships had the weight of entire armadas. On the Warzone screens, the two alien empires continued to clash. But now their ships were pulling back, scanning, searching for the intruder. Captains barked orders trying to locate the human vessel, and then the signal came again. This time it was not faint. It was like thunder rolling across the stars. A shadow appeared on the edge of the battlefield, moving through hyperspace like a predator stalking prey. The council chamber shook as sensor data poured in. The readings were unbelievable. Energy signatures so dense they broke the scaling of the graphs, a hull size that dwarfed even the largest dreadnoughts. Impossible, whispered Counselor Wren. One ship cannot carry this much power. The AI corrected them coldly. Human war vessel, class unknown, status, active. A ripple of unease spread through the alien commanders watching the broadcast. Even the soldiers on the battlefield felt it. The air inside their ships seemed heavier, as if the presence of this one vessel bent the space around them. Old myths began to crawl back into their thoughts. Whispers passed among the fleets. Humans, the ghosts of war, the species that vanished but left behind stories of impossible victories. A captain of the Zarek fleet muttered under his breath, "It cannot be them." They were gone. They were extinct. Yet the shadow kept moving closer. The alien ships tried to identify it, but the vessel's systems jammed their scanners. They could only see glimpses, a massive outline plated with dark armor glowing faintly as if alive. No signals came from it, no introduction, no declaration of purpose. Only silence. But silence can be louder than war. Inside the council chamber, the tension grew sharp. Some leaders still mocked, dismissing it as an unknown weapon, a trick by one of the warring empires. But Admiral Koresh's voice cut through the noise. "You fools. Look at the data. This is no trick. This is human design. It carries their mark. Function over form, raw power hidden under silence." A cold shiver went through the room. On the battlefield, the alien fleets hesitated. For the first time in weeks, the war stopped. Weapons cooled, engines slowed. Thousands of ships waited, watching the silent giant appear in the blackness. And then, across all channels, a low hum filled the comms. It was not words, not music, just a vibration deep and steady like the sound of a heartbeat amplified 1,000 times. It shook the bones of every soldier. Aliens looked at one another in fear. None understood the meaning, but all of them felt it. One Zorik officer turned pale. He remembered an ancient fragment from his people's history, a warning written in old language. When the Terran heartbeat echoes in the void, war will fall silent. The council's laughter was gone now. Only silence remained, broken by the steady hum of the approaching vessel. The war zone, once full of fire and chaos, was suddenly calm. Every eye turned to the shadow at the edge of the stars. The message was clear without words. Humanity had returned. The arrival of the vessel. The hum grew louder. It was not noise, it was a presence. Every ship in the war zone felt it. Crews covered their ears even though the sound came not through speakers but inside their minds. It was the heartbeat of a giant. Then the shadow broke through hyperspace. The vessel appeared. It was not sleek like the ships of the Zorik or bright like the Drevians. It was raw, brutal, built with purpose. Its hull was scarred, dark, marked, with old battles. But even damaged, it looked indestructible. Whole fleets could have hidden under its wings. The battlefield froze. Thousands of alien eyes widened. For the first time, soldiers who lived only for war felt fear. The council chamber filled with gasps. Their laughter from before seemed childish now. On the giant holoscreen, the human war vessel turned slowly, its presence filling the entire display. This is no myth," whispered Counselor Wren, his voice shaking. The ship did not announce itself. It did not send a message. It simply existed, and its existence was enough to command silence. A Zorik general, his face tight with anger, shouted through comms, "Identify yourself! State your allegiance!" But no reply came. Instead, the vessel released a wave of static across every channel. For a moment, all communication in the war zone collapsed. Ships blinked into darkness, then rebooted. The human vessel had silenced an entire battlefield with one pulse. Admiral Koresh stood straighter, his face pale but his voice steady. "This is not just a ship. This is a relic of war. Humans never wasted words. When they arrive, their actions speak for them." Out on the front, alien soldiers watched as the vessel moved with impossible grace. It should have been too large, too heavy to glide through space so smoothly. Yet it did, like a predator moving silently through black waters. The Drevians whispered among themselves, recalling ancient rumors. The Terrans built ships like fortresses, powered by suns, fed by silence. A Drevian officer trembled. "But there is only one ship." "Yes," Koresh muttered under his breath. "And one is enough." The Zorik Empire, unwilling to bow to fear, ordered their forward fleet to engage. 10 cruisers locked weapons, aiming at the silent intruder. The battlefield shook as missiles, plasma beams and rail slugs streaked across the void. But the human vessel did not move. The weapons struck its hull in a rain of fire. Explosions rolled across its body, flames and smoke covering its surface. Alien commanders cheered, convinced the intruder had fallen. Then the smoke cleared. The vessel was still there. Shields flickered faintly, repairing, absorbing. The hull bore scorch marks but no cracks, no damage that mattered. It stood like a mountain against the storm. And then for the first time, the ship replied. Its lights came alive, glowing along its frame like the veins of a beast waking from slumber. Turrets rotated, cannons aligned, systems powered. A sound, low and mechanical, echoed across the war zone as the vessel prepared itself. A voice followed, not loud, not emotional, cold, steady, and human. "This is your only warning. Leave the war zone." The words spread across every channel, every ship, every soldier's ear. Translated into every alien tongue, the message was the same: leave or be destroyed. Shock rippled through the fleets. For centuries, no one had heard a human voice. Now, that voice cut through space like a blade. The Zorik commander roared in defiance. "Attack again. All units, destroy that ship." Hundreds of ships lit up, firing together. The battlefield turned into a storm of light and fire. Missiles, beams, and torpedoes fell like rain on the human vessel, and still it did not move. The human warship absorbed the storm, its shields humming like a beast breathing deeply. Then its cannons lit up. With one thunderous shot, a rail slug pierced through 3 enemy ships in a line, tearing them apart as if they were paper. Plasma lances followed, cutting through cruisers and corvettes with surgical precision. Each shot was measured, deliberate. No wasted fire, no chaos, only efficiency. Alien captains screamed, their ships falling one after another. In minutes, the Zaric fleet that had attacked first was gone, reduced to glowing debris drifting through the void. The war zone was silent again. Every soldier knew now. This was not a ship. This was judgment. The council sat frozen, their eyes locked on the hollow screen. Admiral Koresh whispered more to himself than to anyone else. They are back. The Terrans are back. The human vessel turned slowly, its cannons cooling, its lights dimming, but still alive. It did not chase. It did not rush. It simply waited, daring anyone else to step forward. And in that silence, even the bravest alien fleets hesitated. Because they now understood the truth of the warning. One human ship could fight like an empire. First clash of fire. The war zone had gone quiet again, but this silence was not peace, it was fear. The alien fleets, numbering in the thousands, stared at the lone intruder. No one moved. No one wanted to be the next target of that terrible ship. But pride is a poison, and the Zaric Empire had swallowed too much of it. On board their flagship, Commander Zath snarled. His pride would not allow retreat. One ship cannot decide the fate of empires, he spat. Forward fleet, attack again. Overwhelm it with numbers. His orders spread like fire. Hundreds of Zaric ships advanced, wings of destroyers and cruisers surrounding the human vessel like wolves circling a lone beast. Inside their ships, alien soldiers screamed battle cries, but deep in their hearts, doubt already grew. They had seen the rail slug tear through ships like they were toys. They had seen how the vessel endured storms of fire without moving. But they obeyed anyway, driven by fear of their commander and pride of their empire. The human ship still did not move. Instead, its voice came again, calm, unshaken. Final warning ignored. Then the storm began. The Zaric unleashed everything, missiles blotting out the stars, plasma burning brighter than suns, railguns screaming across the void. The battlefield became a sea of light and fury. To anyone watching, it looked as if the human vessel had been swallowed by destruction. But the council chamber saw the truth. The scanner showed shields holding, energy rebalancing, systems redirecting fire. The ship was not dying. It was learning. Each impact mapped, each strike calculated. It was adapting. And then, in the heart of that storm, the human vessel struck back. Rail cannons thundered, each shot a spear of death. With perfect precision, they pierced the command centers of enemy ships, cutting the heads off entire squadrons. Plasma arcs lashed out, carving through wings of destroyers. But the most terrifying was the silence between shots. Unlike alien fleets that fired constantly in chaos, the human ship was patient. It waited, watched, and then struck exactly where it hurt the most. Every round was a message. Every kill was deliberate. Alien soldiers panicked. Their weapons felt useless. They fired blindly, screaming at their captains. But nothing worked. For every 100 shots they fired, the vessel answered with one, and that one was always fatal. Commander Zath shouted, his voice cracking, "Keep firing, break its shields, it cannot last forever." But even he was shaking. He could see it. His fleet was dying faster than he could command. On the Drevian observation decks, Admiral Koresh spoke to his aides. "Do you see it? Humans don't fight wars, they finish them. Their strategy is not chaos, it is mathematics. They calculate victory like an equation." The aide whispered, "But it's only one ship." Koresh's eyes were hard. "And yet it fights like an empire." Back in the war zone, debris filled the black sky. The Zorik fleet was breaking. Ships collided in panic. Others tried to retreat, but the vessel did not allow it. It picked them off one by one, like a predator making sure no prey escaped. Suddenly, the human vessel changed tactics. Its main guns fell silent, and from its hull new weapons emerged, small, needle-like drones glowing with blue light. They shot out like sparks from a fire, swarming into enemy ships. Zorik soldiers screamed as the drones cut through their hulls, disabling engines, slicing weapons apart, leaving ships adrift. The battlefield became a graveyard of drifting wrecks, silent and broken. Then the voice returned. You were warned. Leave or be destroyed. The Drevians, who had been watching from the shadows, finally realized the truth. This was not random. This was not a rogue ship. It was controlled, deliberate. Somewhere inside, a human captain was making these decisions. Counselor Wren whispered, horrified. But how? Humanity was gone. Their colonies were dead. Their cities, dust. Who commands this ship? No one answered. On the battlefield, Commander Zath's flagship was the last Zorik ship standing. His entire fleet, hundreds of warships, had been erased in less than an hour. His pride broke into rage. He opened comms directly, screaming into the void. You dare challenge the Empire with one ship? You dare defy us? The human voice answered, calm and steady. I warned you, this war zone is no longer yours. Leave. Zath roared in fury. Never. His flagship fired its last barrage, missiles streaking through the black. For a brief moment, the council thought perhaps somehow he might succeed. But the vessel's cannons spoke once more. One rail shot cut through the flagship's core. It split in two, a massive explosion painting the void with fire. Zath's scream died with his ship. And then there was silence again. The human vessel floated among the wreckage, glowing faintly, its systems humming like the steady breath of a giant. It did not chase. It did not boast. It simply waited. Every alien in the war zone felt the same truth. They were not facing a weapon. They were facing a legend. Human ingenuity unleashed. The battlefield was no longer a war. It was a graveyard. Thousands of ships, once full of fire, now floated as cold wrecks. The silence that followed was heavy, pressing on every mind. The human vessel did not move quickly. It drifted through the wreckage like a king walking across a ruined battlefield. Its lights glowed faintly, and sparks of energy crawled across its armor, repairing burns and sealing cracks. The ship seemed alive, breathing, healing itself. Inside the council chamber, fear and fascination mixed. Alien leaders leaned closer to their screens. The data scrolling across their displays showed something impossible. Look, whispered Counselor Wren. It repairs itself. They were right. Nanotech swarmed across the vessel's hull, tiny machines stitching wounds of battle. Panels reformed, scars faded, and in minutes, the ship looked new again. Admiral Koresh exhaled slowly. Humans, always built for survival. Where others build for beauty, they build for endurance. This ship is not a weapon. It is a fortress that refuses to die. Out in the war zone, alien survivors trembled inside their crippled ships. Some tried to send distress signals. Others prayed to their gods. None dared fire again. Then, the vessel revealed more. Its reactors flared, not with fusion or antimatter like alien ships, but with something different, clean energy drawn from the Y nearest star. Solar arrays unfolded like wings of light, gathering power directly from the sun itself. The aliens stared in disbelief. They feed on the stars, one captain whispered. The vessel turned slowly, its wings shimmering with captured light. Systems powered up again, brighter than before. It was not just a warship. It was a self-sustaining world, a machine that could travel forever without running dry. And it was not alone. From the vessel's hull, compartments opened, releasing smaller crafts, drones, shuttles, and fighters unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. They did not swarm mindlessly. They moved with precision, weaving together like dancers in the void. Alien soldiers watching the screens felt their courage collapse. Their own fleets relied on numbers, overwhelming with fire. But the humans had built something different. Machines that fought like extensions of the same mind. The human vessel began its second demonstration. A group of alien survivors tried to retreat, engines firing desperately. The vessel did not fire its cannons, instead it released its drones. The drones were fast, too fast for sensors to track. They slipped past shields, clamped onto hulls, and drained ships of power in seconds. Engines died, lights went out, and once mighty cruisers floated helplessly like toys. Other drones carried beams of light that sliced through weapons without touching crews. They did not kill unless needed. They disabled, disarmed, and silenced. Alien officers shivered. This was not only war, it was precision, almost mercy. The council chamber was filled with silence. For the first time, many of its members began to understand. Humans were not fighting to destroy. They were fighting to teach. They could kill them all, Counselor Wren said softly. But they do not. They choose. Admiral Koresh nodded, grimly. That is the true terror of humans. Their strength is not only power, it is choice. They decide when to end war. Not us. On the battlefield, one surviving alien captain dared to open comms. His voice was broken, desperate. Who are you? Why are you here? For a long moment there was no answer. The human vessel glided silently through drifting wrecks. Then, at last, the voice returned. Cold, calm, human. We are the reminder. We are the consequence of arrogance. This war zone is no longer yours. The alien captain shivered. His crew wept in silence. They knew resistance was useless. The human vessel powered down its weapons, its lights dimming again. The battlefield grew darker, but the fear did not fade, because everyone watching, the fleets, the survivors, the council, now understood. If this was just one ship, what if there were more? What if humanity had returned not with one vessel, but with many? The council leaders exchanged terrified glances. For centuries they had mocked humanity, calling them myths, primitives, ghosts of the past. But now the ghost had become flesh again, and it was unstoppable. The Drevian aide whispered to Koresh, trembling, "What should we do?" Koresh's answer was simple, almost a whisper. Pray that there is only one ship. But in his heart he already feared the truth. Humanity never moved alone. Silence after the storm. The battlefield was unrecognizable. Where once thousands of ships had screamed in fire and fury, now there was only silence. Wreckage drifted in endless darkness, glowing faintly from dying flames. Engines flickered out. Weapons, once alive with fire, hung dead and broken. And in the middle of that graveyard, the human vessel stood untouched. Its hull shimmered faintly, scars already fading under the work of its machines. Its wings of light folded back, storing the energy of the nearby star. The battlefield, the council, and every surviving soldier understood the same truth. This ship had not come here to win. It had come here to remind them what humans were. Onboard crippled alien cruisers, survivors whispered in fear. No one dared fire again. They watched the vessel with the silence one gives a god. Some prayed, some wept. Others simply stared, broken by the weight of what they had seen. Then the voice returned. It was not loud. It was steady, carrying across every comm channel, every frequency, translated into every tongue. The war is over. Leave, or join the wreckage. The message echoed through the fleets, burning into their minds. There was no anger in the voice, no pride, no gloating, only certainty. The Zarek, the Drevians, the council, everyone who heard, it felt the same chill. This was not a declaration. It was judgment. Some alien commanders tried to argue, their pride refusing to break. But their voices shook, their crews disobeyed, and their ships refused to advance. The fleets had lost the will to fight. Against one human ship, their empires had been brought to their knees. Inside the council chamber, silence hung heavy. Leaders who had mocked now trembled in their seats. They had believed humanity was extinct, scattered dust in forgotten corners of history. Yet here was proof. Not only were humans alive, they had returned with a vengeance. Counselor Wren finally broke the silence, whispering, "If this is only one vessel, then where are the others?" No one answered. Admiral Koresh, his voice low but steady, said the words none wanted to hear. "If humanity has risen again, then every empire in this galaxy is already living on borrowed time." On the battlefield, the vessel began to move. Slowly, deliberately, it turned away from the fleets. Its engines hummed, glowing brighter. The wreckage lit up in its wake as it prepared to leave. Before it jumped into hyperspace, the voice spoke one last time. "Remember this day. Humanity has returned." The words rang across the galaxy, carried by survivors, by signals, by whispers that spread faster than light. In every world, in every council chamber, in every fleet, the legend of humans was reborn. The vessel vanished into hyperspace, swallowed by silence. The war zone was left behind, a graveyard, a warning, a scar on history. Survivors drifted, staring, at the place where the ship had disappeared. None celebrated survival. None dared claim victory. All they felt was the weight of the warning. Far above, the council sat in fear. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others begged for peace, and a few whispered of surrender. But deep inside, every one of them knew the truth. The galaxy had laughed at humans, calling them weak, primitive, gone. But now the galaxy remembered, and memory is the beginning of fear. The last image burned into every mind was the silhouette of that ship, standing alone against thousands and still undefeated. The storm of war had ended, and the silence that followed was not peace. It was the silence before something greater. Humanity had returned.